Time now for the voice of the land on the Big Play Network with your hosts, Kevin Arnold and Always Positive Jay.
And I am joined now by Jim Wagner, who I've gotten a chance to work with a lot with our CBC TV and LPV Productions, all the other things we've done. But you're the man putting on Elmer Flick Days. Just tell the people about kind of the stuff that's been going on throughout the weekend and what's still to come tonight.
Well, we started off last night. We showed The Sandlot and Field of Dreams, huge screen, 25-foot screen that was hanging up above the square, and then we started off this morning. We had some all-star games from the Western Reserve Fast Pitch Girls Softball League, and then at 1 o'clock we had a baseball reenactment down at Bedford Glens, and it was, I guess it was very well taken.
Yeah, unfortunately, Jim didn't get a chance to go
down.
He was
so busy to go there, too busy. But well, we had a barbershop quartet down there like they used to back in the 1800s, and so that's kind of cool. And then we're just waiting now for the Billy Donato concert, which will be starting about 7 o'clock.
Yeah, so everybody kind of, everybody kind of getting some food around downtown Bedford, things like that, and then we'll be coming back down for the concert. But these are Elmer Flick Days, and I saw the video that you kind of put together with some information from Bobby DiBiasio, of course, works with promotions and with the Guardians and Indians organization. We've had him on the show before, and he's always loving to talk about the history of Cleveland baseball. And I mean, we've talked about on the show about how Jan and I got married at League Park, and to start to learn more, it's almost like more information kind of just right at the right time kind of coming out about who played there, what happened at League Park. And I believe today, back in 1941, Joe DiMaggio hit for the 56th straight game at League Park. I saw that tweeted out by them earlier today. But Elmer Flick definitely had an impact on the history of Cleveland baseball. Tell the people a little bit more about Elmer Flick and who he was.
Okay, well, Elmer was born in Bedford, and as he was getting older, but this happened right at the train station, which is right here. They were waiting to go to a game in Streetsboro, and they only had 8 guys. And so they looked into the crowd to try to find somebody who looked like they could play, and they picked Elmer Flick. He had no shoes on, had no uniform, and he went there and was considered the best player on the team. And he was like 15 years old, and he's playing with adults. So the next year when he was on some business for his dad, he was going to out of town and decided to stop by Youngstown, and he wanted to try out with Youngstown, and they had no idea. They go, the way you look like a ball player, but we don't know.
Right.
We never heard of you.
Right.
So they said, just keep an eye on your mailbox, and you'll get something from us. And sure enough, they invited him to come to spring training. He made the team, and then he played for Dayton the next year, and got the attention of the Philadelphia Phillies, and he wound up making the team his rookie year. He was sitting the bench, and their regular right fielder got injured. He had a bad back, and Elmer Flick came in and batted 300, threw a 302 his rookie year. Had a great year, and then the next year he did even better, and then his third year he hit 367. The only person that hit better than him was Honus Wagner. No relation. So then he was one of the most valuable players in the National League at that time, and that's when the American League was starting, and he had the opportunity to jump. First he went to the Philadelphia A's of the National League, but they didn't like him being there, and Napoleon Lajoie was supposed to go there too. And what happened was after he played 11 games for the A's, he got sent over to Cleveland, which was his hometown, which was great for him. And, his numbers went down a little bit. But it was also because at that time when the American League started, that's when they started throwing spitballs.
Yeah. And,
it was a lot harder to hit the ball then. And the 3-strike rule changed too. So there were a lot of things that happened that, obviously everybody's numbers started coming down. But he was still a good performer until the end of 2007. And then he had this mysterious stomach ailment that just basically ruined his career. He probably only batted 400 times in his last 3 years. And then he played 2 more years in the minors, and that was it. And he went to building houses in Bedford, and just he would race his sulkies up and down Broadway here. It was kind of cool. But I wasn't around for that. But
but I mean, just thinking about that story and hearing that story, someone that's a 15-year-old, just think about that in today's day and age, a 15-year-old in the stands because a team is short players. They need that 9th guy to bat in the lineup and being pulled out, and then that kind of gets eyes on him and information didn't travel like it does today either.
And one of the funny things was back in the early 1900s and late 1800s, some of these town teams didn't have a pitcher. So they would hire a pitcher for each game. Mm-hmm. And when they played the doubleheader that he went on the train trip for, the pitcher from the first game went up to the pitcher for the second game and said, "Watch out for the kid without a uniform on. He's the best guy on the team." So that's kind of, that's interesting. Yeah. It's really cool.
I mean, and to be the best at such a young age, I mean, we've seen younger athletes kind of be put on that platform. And nowadays, I mean, what's so hard about it is the media attention and how information travels. Elmer, kind of maybe to his credit and being in that time frame, the message didn't get out there as fast, but still able to just go out there and play the game that he loved at that kind of level.
Yep.
Now, I know that we kind of got a chance to walk into the Bedford Historical Society just right across the way from us right now, and some great stuff in there. Some of the baseball cards, to see some of the original baseball cards. Is that exhibit going to be up there for a little bit for people to come check out, even after Elmer Flick Days?
It'll be up through the end of the baseball season, yes.
And some of those, how did you get some of those, or did people kind of give those to you over time?
No, those were donated to the museum by,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, it's so crazy to kind of see the evolution of baseball cards and all of that kind of information. Why was it so important to you, though? Because we have the Elmer Flick statue here in the square, just over on the other side where the main stage is. Why was it so important to you to kind of help get that statue for Elmer Flick to have and to kind of put emphasis on him with these Elmer Flick Days to kind of shed light on someone else we don't talk about in Cleveland baseball lore?
All right, what really happened with the Flick deal was I was on the superintendent's roundtable committee for the Bedford City Schools. Marty Motzko was the superintendent at the time. And Central School, which is right behind us over here, was turning 100 years old. And they wanted some information on things that happened around 1902, 1901. And, there was stuff like the first ice cream cone at at any kind of an event and some other stuff like that. And then I started looking up Elmer Flick. And I noticed this guy had great stats, especially his third year in Philadelphia. And so I called the Baseball Hall of Fame and I ordered everything that they had for Elmer Flick, and it showed up a couple days later, and it was probably about an inch thick. And I got it about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that next morning my wife came downstairs and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was still down there reading all the stuff about Elmer Flick. And then I went to Dan Posek, who was the mayor at the time, and Bob Reed, who was the city manager, and told him, we've got a Hall of Famer that lives here in Bedford. Why doesn't anybody know anything about it? And they were like, well, let's see what we can do about it. And, at first they threw around some ideas about putting up a plaque or something like that. And then Dan mentioned doing a statue, which I was all for that. But 9 years later, we finally got the statue up there, so it took a long time.
I muted myself there. So when was the statue actually dedicated?
In 2013.
Okay.
Which was the 50th anniversary of him being elected to the Hall of Fame.
And the Cleveland the organization was involved. The Indians,
big
of
time.
course, at the time.
Bob DiBiasio was all over it. Bob's awesome.
Yeah. Just talk about maybe the event and stuff to dedicate it. Who they may have brought out here, and I believe, wasn't that, I saw in the video, that was the same day as Jason Giambi's.
The day after.
The day after,
Yeah.
okay. The day after
Yeah.
Jason Giambi's big walk-off against the White Sox that you kind of always see in highlights. I mean, who came out here? What were those conversations like to get the organization involved in that kind of undertaking?
One thing I found out about baseball people is they love to help you. They love to get involved, and Bob was a big help. And at the dedication, the statue was all covered with a big blanket, and we had a crane out there. And Joe Charbonneau was here, Len Barker, and Mike Hargrove. And this entire square was packed with people. I don't think you could put any more people on the square. And it was kind of cool because, like, we were facing towards the restaurants over there, and right in front of the stage was Elmer Flick's family. There had to be 45, 50 people there that came in from all over the United States because everybody had forgotten about him.
Yeah.
And, this is, he retired in 1910. So for him to be, almost 100 years, over 100 years later, he's finally getting honored by his hometown. It had to be kind of like playing with Napoleon Lajoie, and he's getting all the attention, but I'm the one that lives here.
Yeah.
So it was really fun. It was a lot of fun.
And I think we forget about especially with a sport like baseball that's been around for so long, we forget about the true trailblazers of each sport, the ones that got the ball rolling for so many others to come after them. And I mean, that's why it's America's pastime. It's one of America's favorite sports, even though there's conversations about how to change it, how to modernize it. But all of the little elements that they played with back then are still going to be a part of the game. Like the reason why it's been difficult to update the game and modernize the game is because if you're going to play it, you got to play it with some of the same kind of aspects that Elmer Flick did.
Well, it's funny, and this is one of my favorite stories his grandson told me. He's like, back then they had a couple baseballs. They didn't play with 6 dozen balls a game.
Like buckets and buckets and buckets.
And when this started off with these guys starting to throw spitballs, which was a great advantage for the pitchers, well, Elmer Flick and another teammate, when there were a lot of horses, there weren't many cars back then.
Yeah.
Well, they went out in the street and they collected some horse dung and rubbed it all over the ball. So when the guy was throwing a spitball, he was tasting the ball. So it's like it's kind of funny.
Yeah. It's funny to kind of hear those stories, like the way that competitive advantages like that philosophy has even been around for so many generations. And I know you guys had a great event out here in Bedford, well, only the first year, so not as many people knowing about it. You always got a home here at Voice of the Land because we're with LPV Productions, so maybe we kind of have to. But you always got a home here to do that because I know you guys want to try to get it going again.
Right.
Next year, the Baseball Heritage Museum at League Park was here. That is a place that if you are a baseball fan, like you have to get to League Park to go to the Baseball Heritage Museum. It's small. It's a quick walkthrough, but there is so much history just in that one little space.
Well, here's another interesting thing. When we originally did the statue, this was at the end of Dan Posek's term as mayor. Mm-hmm. So they scheduled the event without really talking to us. And so it was going to be on September 25th or something like that. And so I called the sculptor and I was like, is that statue going to be ready by then? And he's like, no. He goes, it's not going to be done for months because it's out in California or on the west coast. And I go, what can we do? And he said that we can turn it into a fiberglass. Mm-hmm. And then, so he made a fiberglass cast of it. We put that up on a different base because that base that's there is African something or other, and it's expensive, very expensive. So we had this little gray block that had Elmer Flick's name on it with a fiberglass statue, and that was there for the dedication. And then the next summer was when the actual statue wound up there with the African granite. And So it really looks nice.
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, it's quick drive. I mean, up over on the east side, it's quick drive down south here to downtown Bedford. And be on the lookout for more information is coming out next summer. Everyone's always looking forward to. Once we get to the cold months, everybody's looking forward to, what's going to be outdoors in the summertime? What can I look forward to? This is such a great little, feels like a little community event that can have such a big impact and big outreach to a lot of people. So, Jim, thank you so much for coming on, sharing a little bit.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll make sure to make sure Elmer Flick's memory is definitely honored here on the Voice of the Land as well.